Ila, Ilia, asks, can sulfur and caustic be used for nano coating?
Yes, depends what you want to do with it.
What kind of things could sulfur be useful for, do you think?
Sulfur, sulfur is usually good used for a specific kind of coils for balancing the body, metal and what do you call it, semiconductors of the body. If you use phosphor, is good when you have a, a calcium deficiency, because your parotid glands convert the phosphor to calcium, and this can help. What you do, you have to use in the pad or get a strength of the coils to what they call sulfur, and then your body, as you put it there, it creates a condition that the energy absorbed which converts to the energy balance of the calcium. Sometimes it uses it, but you have to find your parotid glands, and it releases instead calcium, and it literally brings recovery from bone deficiency or bone, what do you call it, when it gets soft. But you got to know what you're doing. Man is that the brain of the man itself is made of the circle lines. We see a flat bottom on the brain of the man, where in fact it gives you this shape. The reason we see this flat pores here, this flat shape here at the bottom, is because the gravitational magnetic field of the body of the mass of the man, through its heart and through its spinal cord, creates this shape. Because the field forces coming in from the heart, from the physical part, is creates the push that leads to this curvature or this end of the section of the brain. And if you see where it comes down, is where the field forces of the heart and what it comes from neural system is weaker. So as it comes, it splashes. That's how it goes, because of the field forces within the center. One of the reasons why man has a split brain is because to handle this pressure. It cannot hold the continuity of the, what I call the shape, if it was as it was semicircle. This split allows it to contain and maintain the pressures which are upcoming through the heart, magnetic field and the neural system. First of all, it gives the flexibility, and secondly, it allows to release any pressures which come internally, cannot be handled, to be released as a maggrav or gravitational magnetic field. In the coming time, the human race will learn they can use this efficiently and effectively for any kind of feeding, be it the feeding of the physicality part, or feeding the emotion, or controlling the emotion. The shape of the brain, the way it stands, if you look at it, with giving you access to the center, gives you a porthole in how to reach the emotion of the man. You got to understand that the field approaches this way because it comes through the heart. But you can, if you understand, use the same system to affect the physical part of the body of the man. So when you build systems, when you start building these hats and helmets and whatever, remember one thing. You have to respect the division. If you make your systems across the line to interact with the brain of the man, you can create problems. One of my advice to you, which you have started building these systems, always keep as much as you can clear of the central line. Because in so many ways, in a coming time, If you create a condition that all the fields can add to each other in this following manner, you go outside the body in the direction of the soul. It's one of the ways to elevate the soul of the man through the plasma of the man, if man knows what he's doing. In the future, when you come across aggressive men, so who are warmongering and the rest, all you need to do is to develop a technology, a system, that both systems feed at the same time to the center. You add to, you never take away. And the only way you add to is you make sure all the magnetical fields are faced each other in the direction of the flow that they create in that direction. And when you elevate the soul of the man, the emotion will change and the physicality will change, and they won't remember what to do, why they were so aggressive. You don't go and put these people into prisons anymore and in institutes. If you understood this, the reverse of the same process is as follows. If you have the structure and you understood the structure of the brain, as what we saw with our Indian colleague, you can use, now you use the opposite way with a magnetical, which you can push into the physical side to change the physicality. Don't forget, the gravitation always comes up to become magnetic. Understand exactly what I have explained. You'll find out a lot of physicians will find a new way to change all conditions. The only thing you cannot treat or you cannot process with this is schizophrenic. And what I call is known, as we explained in our other teachings, what they call nymphos, which is the same condition as schizophrenic, or what I call the nice people. You ever come across these structures, you do not touch, because there is nothing wrong with you who do not understand. Otherwise, even in a coma condition, you can create to change the button. Understand how? We've seen with the situation as we were shown by our friend in India, the children are epileptic. What is epilepsy? Epilepsy, to understanding, as we thought before in the health section, is too much information from all over the body comes in, mainly emotional, that they try to reach the physicality because there's no other way to go. So at this point in the structure of the body of a man, there is a click, there is a switch that allows so much information to go down. And every time he opens up to get rid of the information, the energy, it creates shakes and shivers or whatever you see. So when you come to the conditions of epilepsy, your job is to remove the information, not towards the body, but opposite out. You use the same system. But in your structure, you have to make sure that you create field forces in your helmet or in the body part which you put in, that holds and maintains the pressure upwards. But not enough to create a brain hemorrhage, but enough to be able to allow the information to go. And when the pressure goes, you'll find out the person will gradually walk out, because the body has to adjust itself out of epilepsy. We've done a number of epilepsy cases using this understanding. There is no difference between a brain stroke, brain hemorrhage, and epilepsy. It's exactly the same problem, but in reverse. In epilepsy, the energy created in the emotional part, which transferred to the physical part, pushes down. In the hemorrhage, it's the reverse. The emotional feeling pushes up, and then as it goes up, it destroys the cells around the brain, and then you see defects. And because Your heart sits slightly in the angle of your, what do you call, your heart in your body. The field forces always we see the same direction as the heart is tilted, a little bit more to the left. We see with most of the strokes, most of the damage is on the left hand, or depending on the position of the heart, how it's positioned in respect to the brain, to the right. So now we understand more the physiology due to the plasma's interactions. Now that you start building these systems, these helmets, you have to understand you can use your body parts, what are called body systems, and the helmets in conjunction with each other to create a right field forces that you open the gate, the body learns how to disperse, so the extra energy in a soft way, because it comes through physicality, will go through very easily. You do the reverse with a stroke. If you understood this, in the coming time, those of you who are in the world of medicine will understand something very simple. You can totally control the whole structure of the man by, in a way, embed him in a system which you have a full control of. Very much like what I call the decompression chambers. You can dictate exactly what organs you want to produce, what you want to repair, how you want to repair it, and what speed to repair it. Because now, through the helmets, you can change the speed of information, and knowing that this part has a control, speed up the rate of growth. You have two choices. Go the hard way and interact with the physical body, or go the soft way, directly through the emotion, the physicality, which very quickly can change. It's not your arm and leg which decides how fast you change the cell, it's the operation of the emotion which has control through the physical part of the brain. So we see up to now, we always go for operation, cutting things out, opening things and doing things. Now we have a new tools in the arsenal of the medicine, which means you work with the top, you don't need to open the body. You don't need to do much to change the conditions. You don't need much to understand that in a space we don't need to take medicine, we don't need to take doctors. You build the system beforehand, is in your craft, and there we go. As all, there is a reason for it. A lot of you are going through the process of, you call it, uh, what do you call it? The seeds which has been tampered with. You carry, you go to the restaurants, and they tell you, you have seeds which has been genetically modified. Your fear should be over. Doesn't matter what they've done with it. Build yourself a unit, the same, and place your food inside it for a while. The plasma, which get rid of all the energies which is added, which the plant or the seed was not used to originally. Modified seed, if you understand it, is the end of it. Modified grain. Genetically modified bits or whatever has come to an end. And you've seen it. The gentleman has shown it to you with the apple. He changes direction, the apple changes. So now you see again, we learn from our Chinese colleagues. If you create coils, two coils of the same strength flow, in a way, then as we shown it, connect them in the right direction of flow, and you put any food inside it, the seed will take what is changed inside it back to normality. The Monsanto is selling hollow seeds. Those of you who oppose to be given the genes which are modified through food, now you have a solution. If you know how to do it, even you can do it with the GANs, you can take the seed back to its original. We have shown this in the research in Belgium over the past 3-4 years. As I said, we are not a change just only in energy, we are a change in all aspects to get man ready for a space. A lot of you speak about chemtrails. A lot of you built the CO2 kit and you saw the amino acid on the top. Look for materials you can nano coat on one side or both sides of different characters, which you think the chemtrails are made of. You can empty it in a very easy way. Try the very interesting way. Try to put a pad on the place, the front, the back, or the coils we showed at the position of the kidney. It won't happen straight away. Place a pad or a coil the way I just showed you with the other system across the kidney. But don't forget, do not connect it to electricity. You can connect yours to a plasma battery and give it time. In time, you will see the change. Yes, you can do. This is the change for dialysis machines. You have loved ones with the dialysis, let them go on the dialysis. Just make them the pads and make them the coils and let them be sitting on it. You will see the change and it works fantastic. This is the new dialysis machines and will allow the body to sort itself out. Do not go and connect it to anything. Just don't forget how you have to create a condition in the salt water. Because what you take, this is your battery side, this is the direction of the flow is this way. You don't go and change the blood, you don't go and change, put in dialysis. You allow, you give enough energy to every cell of the liver to take what it needs, they repair themselves, and then in time, you see the change. Yes, there is a solution, that's one of the solutions. Use CO2 pads. Make sure you carry enough. You handle the emotion side of the coil, not the real physical, because the physical side is supported by the nano coating of the copper wire. You add the CO2 to the copper coil. When you connect it, you handle both emotional and physical side. And it takes time. You need to give time. I usually give people 3 to 6 months time. And then you look at the end of the balance at the end. Yes, this is your new dialysis machine, without intervention, without giving blood, without going. But this dialysis machine, when you finish with it, you don't need it anymore. You live a normal life. Because the kidney in time will operate itself normally because it gets a chance to do. Maybe you don't understand these things. I explained to you something very interesting. If you want to see the power of what you have created or what you create, very simple. Then you understand exactly how and the reason I speak. Make yourself a CO2 patch and make 2 of them. Place it right on top of your heart and you feel the compression in the heart. You feel the change in your heart. Then you know what we're talking. Then you know how the energy of the CO2 gives to your emotion and how you feel about it. It changes your mind because your heart is the circulation motor for your emotion. Then you know when we tell you how they work, If you feel it in your heart, you believe in your own creation. Because man is so weak, he wants to feel it. Do it. You will understand. Then you understand how the rest, which you don't see, you don't feel, they work. When you make these coils with the plasma and you put it on your heart and put in the back, you feel the emotion of the plasma. It touches the essence of the creation of man is emotion. Try it and then you believe because you touch you. You have a heart problem, leave a patch. 10, 15 minutes, half an hour a day, back and the front, allows the energy to be given to the blood, which blood needs to take to feed the emotion because it's CO2. It gives a rest to the heart. You walk away from any kind of heart problem. The CO2 patch, which I explained to you, and a lot of you are making it and give it people for the pain. Now, use it back and the front, step by step. Don't expect a change overnight. It needs time. Cells get repaired every 6 months, 12 months. You got to remember, you are not dealing with a plastic and something inside it. That something has a field of its own and it goes beyond it. You're connected to the body of the man because it's peaceful by nature. It will give energy when the body needs it. And you don't need to change the pad. That pad can last for 20, 30 years.
Mr. Kesh, people are asking whether it can be used with a pacemaker.
Some of the CO2s, you have to take advice of your doctor. At least have them present to be tested. Yes. But don't use the coil. Use the pad. But do it, explain it to your doctor. They have to be monitoring you if they see the change, if it affects it or not. But you cannot use it for the heart valves, which has got a, like, what do you call it, metallic heart valve. Because then you create a problem. You can't use it anywhere which there is a problem with all replacement of the metals or whatever, or pins in the body. Never use the pads, never use the coils on anyone who's got the plates anywhere on the spine or on the bones. We can kill them. Because what happens when the pads or the rings are in a position, the disc, for example, gets balanced, they get saturated, and the pins will crack the bone. The vertebra will crack. Because that millimeter of growth to take the pain off is, it creates a new position. Understand what you're doing, and I'll keep on repeating.
I wanted
Yes.
to ask about arthrosis and arthritis. I don't know if the word is the same in English. I don't know in English.
Yes, arthritis.
Yes, and then I have another question, but first about this. Can I use my stackers units for that? Because when I go with the hands around it, I can already feel less
Pain.
um, pain, yes, in the
Okay,
hand.
yes you can. Yes you can. If you make single stackers, don't make double stackers. And you can do it two ways. If you put, let me explain to you, because we tested this, I tell you exactly how it works. I want to clean this out. Yes, you can. And you will see the relief of the pain immediately, more or less. You build yourself a stacker and what do you call it? The double coil, which
Yes,
is nano coated. Put it in a very thin cover, plastic cover, or
yes,
uh, wear, you know, these surgical gloves you wear, not the washing gloves. You know, the gloves you wear when they make salad and things, very thin ones.
yes.
wear those and hold this in your hand. Make sure this is connected to a plasma battery.
Yes.
Or make an insulation good enough for it and use two of them where your knee or whatever sits between the two coils. Connect this to the main, because here you carry totally DC. You have to make sure, I warn you, these have to be tested that they're totally nano coated, isolated, that
Mhm.
you don't get the current, you get the plasma flow, and then yes, you'll see rapid reduction in the pain in your, but don't forget you have to connect it to back and the front disk. So you
Yes.
make it two double coils, you make a double coil, you make another double coil. I don't know why I can't draw it here.
No,
You make
you
another double
say
coil.
make a stacker, yeah? With
Yes, but the stacker, you only need two of the stacker. Two, yeah.
yeah.
You make a two part of, not the three stacker, you make two of the stackers and you
And they
place your arm or hand. Pardon?
and they stay the two stay horizontally
Flat, next to
flat.
each other. You can lie down and put one, but what I always recommend is get, you know, the plastic cling films you get,
Yeah.
you wrap the food in,
Yes.
thin, yeah.
Yes.
Wrap
Um,
your body with one of those that there is no possibility of cancer or whatever touching you.
Yes. Yes.
And
That
then
makes.
it works perfectly. Yes, it does. You can connect it to the, to what do you call it, the power, plasma power or whatever, and
Yeah.
you get the change. It's virtually immediately. You feel the flow of the fields, and the beauty of it is, in most time, it helps with the bone marrow power as well. You feel healthier because you increase the potency of your bone marrow.
The pain reduced when I could put my hands is instantly. So,
Yes, it does. I know it does.
and I would like to call.
Through the testing, that if you have nano coated the material, your copper wire or whatever, and you have your nano coating here, if I can get a thicker line, you have your nano coating in a part of the material. If you rub off the nano coating, what happens with you is uh, I cannot find the razor. So if you take the nano coating from this part off, scratch it off,
Yes.
and then you connect the wire to this part and to the nano coating, you create a flow which depends how you add the energy to it. If your energy is into feed in with the AC, you'll find out you get a different, because it has to go through a nano layer into the matter state forcing, and then you get a beautiful DC AC condition. And then what it does, in a way, you can create a oscillation in your plasma flow. I was talking to Rick this morning. Rick, do you want to add to this? Because this is what we did. It came out in the teaching apparently, or the work this week, but Renan and Vernie, which work in the Innovation Center, we did this in September or October, September last year. We are fully aware of it. It creates a plus or minus half a volt, which rotates. And we have seen a new version of this in past 24 hours, which getting developed, and we'll explain it later on. Do you want to add to this, Rick?
Sure. Let me see
Is
if I
Rick
can
about?
annotate.
Or you can't
Yes,
find your
yes,
microphone?
Mr. Kesh, I'm here, and yeah, I could maybe. Well, we were talking about just draw. Maybe I can draw on your board here with the hand notation. Um, so if there was a, if this was the end of a wire that extended out like that.
We don't see it. You're not sharing with us.
Oh,
How
I
about the
see.
screen sharing? Wait. Now you can share.
We'd have to share a whiteboard then. Okay, let's do that.
Yeah, I moved that.
Okay, so let's get my drawing set up here. Let's say we had a wire, that this was the end of the wire, and the wire extended out like this. And we were talking about what you had brought up. I think it was over 2, maybe 3 years ago now, where you mentioned one of the secrets of the power, the flashlight, the rechargeable or self-charging lamp, was that this wire would be nano-coated, of course. The usual nano-coated copper black coating, which we know to be a type of superconductor. And so we have this, normally it's the whole wire is coated. And what you were saying is you would scrape out part of the coating of the wire here, and that would leave a bare spot where the bare copper would be, and that was a way of extracting power out of that system. And I was thinking about that the other day, and I was looking at this section here of the wire, and it's basically in this shape, which is a C shape, you could say. And I've been interested in that for some time. There's a number of different devices that use C shapes. There's C-shaped resonators they have now that are in the nano scale, but they give out a certain frequency, and they're in this shape. And it can be just a piece of copper printed out on a circuit board, and in that shape will have a certain resonance. And what they also do, they usually encase that one with another one that has the opening at the other side like this. So then this structure becomes a resonating structure, and the current's moving one way in the inside, and it moves the other direction. Like this will be resonating back and forth, so you'll have say a current going that way at one instant, and that will induce a current going the other way in this outer one. And of course you can also add more layers to it if they were just rings. Now in the tube or in a wire like this, it's a little different situation, but it could be, you could extrapolate that you could have a tube with the, you could either have a scratch or an actual slot in the tube. So you have your inner one, and then you might have another tube or some other covering around that one that'll have the opening or the scratch on the opposite side. And then I blew this one here. It should have been closed here and open on the other side over here actually, but you get the idea there that you could have another tube around that one, so they all resonate. So I got to thinking a little bit about this. What if this was a 14 gauge wire, for example? Then what would happen to that nano coating when the let's say the plasma, let's just assume plasma moves like light at the speed of light, then it would resonate back and forth in this C-shaped structure at the speed of light. So I got to calculating, well, what's this distance here? And it turns out to be roughly 5 millimeters. So it ends up having a resonant frequency. I'm not sure what that is offhand, but I made some calculations. It's in the gigahertz range, say. So, which is billions of cycles per second. It's also the range of, for example, cell phones, I think, are 2.4 gigahertz range. So if this was tuned to that 2.4 gigahertz range, you'd pick up on the energy of the cell phone towers and ambient energy. It would resonate at that scalar type frequency, and that could cause this inside wire to resonate just by itself with ambient energies, ambient fields. Some say there's a ambient resonant frequency in our just in our environment of, say, 33,000 kilocycles, or kilohertz rather, kilocycles per second. And any multiple of that, a 10 times multiple or 100 times or 1/10 or whatever, different multiples have the same harmonics. So different size wires will get into the range of these types of frequencies. So anything from like a 30 gauge wire that'd be really tiny up to a 4 gauge wire that would be comparatively huge will have totally different resonating characteristics as far as that scrape or slot in the. It could be a wire or it could be a tube, depending. It's a similar concept. So anyway, that's the gist of that sort of conversation that came up. We talked about it a bit in the online teaching. Basically, it's creating a plasmatic resonating structure. Because of that, scrape makes all the difference, because a circle doesn't resonate the same as a structure with a slot in it, or that hole changes the whole thing.
Yeah,
Okay?
because that hole allows the fields to go in and out.
Exactly.
Because it creates an escape or a path of thought. So that is normal in what you get.
And it also gives the back and forth in this, because of the potential is going to be higher in one of these sides, and it's going to want to try to balance out and then balance back, and it's always in a state of imbalance in a way.
Yeah, but instead of changing the gauges, I think is in part of the pattern, if I remember correctly, is that we can use composite materials. When you use a composite material like brass, I'm gonna take that option. Then what you do is that the brass will create the same condition because it's a mixture of materials. So you don't need to get different gauges, but if you know the composition of the brass, one brass with another different composition will give you the same. You can do it that way. The porosity of the hip bone.
That's osteoporosis, I believe.
Osteoporosis, yeah. If you have osteoporosis, and especially for women, when they go through after age of 50, 60, when you go through menopause, you can use these patches to increase the strength of your bone to stop the fracture. But when you use the pads or patches for this purpose, I have to warn you, be careful you don't become a mama instead of grandma. Because you sit within the structure of the womb of the woman, and it creates, because of its combination of CO2, it creates emotion of security, and we've seen change of menopause. And you got to ask the papa, be careful. We've seen that in Holland, and we saw it, I explained to you, years ago we stopped this process in the Keshe Foundation systems. But now more and more of you are adventuring to try, is for us to set a guideline that you understand where the problem is. But a lot of people, especially with a fractured hip, or if you have a replacement hip, please do not touch it. But if you have a pain, that's what they call, goes through the what I call it, prosody of the bone, especially in the hip. For old people, this you find is be one of them. You can X-ray, you can take your system, you take a MRI of your bone, and then again 6 months or a year later take the same MRI. The doctor will tell you there's a big difference. You don't fill in the holes. All it is that the holes get calcium in a different direction, so it becomes thicker and stronger. We've seen this number of times. This helps a lot. It's the same process as we explained with the bone fracture last week in the teaching, in the health teachings. How you can use it? You can use the long pads or what I call the Keshe Foundation pads, and you just put it in and it just supports it, and you see the pain will go. And then you can do the same with a very big coil. What you got to do, this is what I did for years, and we've seen it, as I always say. The If you have a chair like this, we usually use handicap chairs. We embed with the holes in it, and if you look at it, if this was a seat, the bottom seat, I created the reactors in there, embedding nanomaterial, nano-coated and everything else, that when you put another patch on the top, you created a field and you see the change. Now that we teach, you can see everything else. And by the way, the Belgian police wants to arrest me for this because they say it's illegal to help people with nanomaterials. Or as they don't understand, because they can't even find it. So if you have a problem, you can do this. Make sure the seat you use has no metals in it, and you can literally make your patches, or you can make the coils, and around the size of the coils, embed it, and then make sure you have another coil platform that encircles the two. So the other coil sits like this, with the holes in it, with the system. So the two link up, and you change the structure.